In a small town in the United States, an 8-year-old girl was walking on her way home after school. She was heavy-hearted, her eyes brimming with tears, and she was filled with grievances. She rushed back home in a hurry. She threw herself into her mother's arms and sobbed uncontrollably. The mother, shocked beyond words, held back her surprise and asked for the reason. The little girl, teary-eyed, looked up and said hoarsely and tremblingly, "Mom, I don't want to go to school anymore. They are all bad guys, and I will never play with them again. One classmate said that for someone as short as me, he could crush me with just 2 fingers. The mother listened to her daughter's complaint, her heart aching like being cut by a knife. She gently wiped the tears off her daughter's cheeks and pondered how to comfort her. After a while, the mother brought 2 apples, one big and one small, and handed them to her daughter, saying, "Dear, come and taste them. Which apple tastes better?" The daughter took a bite of the big apple and softly said, "Sweet." Then she took a bite of the small apple and said in surprise, "It seems even sweeter." The little girl looked up, her eyes shining with curiosity. The mother smiled and nodded, saying, "My child, look. The same apple tree can produce different fruits. Although the big apple looks more attractive, only by tasting it carefully will you realize that the small apple is actually more delicious. Its growth cycle is longer, and it accumulates more nutrients because God loves the small apple more." After hearing her mother's words, the girl's self-abasement seemed to gradually melt away. She suddenly understood that even though she was petite, she would still be favored by heaven and become a unique version of herself. Because of her mother's encouragement and guidance, the little girl no longer felt inferior due to her congenital developmental deficiency and regained her confidence. Many years later, the little girl finally became a famous writer. Her first work, Gone with the Wind, broke all publishing records in the United States upon its release, with sales reaching over 10 million copies, and won the Pulitzer Prize. The film adaptation of her novel, Gone with the Wind, became a global sensation and an eternal classic masterpiece. She was none other than Margaret Mitchell, a little girl born with stunted growth. When people curiously asked Mitchell about the secret of her success, she would always smile and say, "Although I am short, I am not self-abased. As long as there is love in our hearts, our lives will shine with a different light. Because God loves the small apples more." In a small town in San Francisco, USA, there lived a lonely old man. He had no children, and his health was deteriorating day by day. His life was filled with loneliness and solitude. After much deliberation, the old man finally decided to move into a nursing home to spend his remaining years. So he decided to sell the garden villa that had accompanied him for a lifetime. Because the old man's house was located in the central area of San Francisco, near a park, its location was extremely advantageous. As a result, it attracted a large number of buyers who came to bid for the beautiful house. With the bidders constantly raising their offers, the house's price also soared. From the initial $100,000, it directly soared to $200,000 and was still rising. Seeing this scene, the old man sat quietly on the sofa, his expression melancholy. His heart was filled with reluctance, because this century-old house carried countless childhood memories for the old man. Despite his poor health, he was still unwilling to easily give up this deep emotional bond. Just then, a simply dressed young man came to the old man's side. He bent down and said softly, "Sir, I also want to buy your house, but I only have $30,000. If you are willing to sell it to me, I promise to let you continue living here. We can drink tea, read newspapers, take walks, and walk the dog together every day. We'll be happy and joyful every day. Trust me, I will take care of you with a sincere heart." Hearing these words, the old man was taken aback. Slowly, he raised his head, and a smile appeared on his face. He looked at the young man, feeling the sincerity in his eyes. In the end, the old man decided to sell the house to the young man for $30,000. This story tells us that relationships and emotions between people are far more important than material value. The old man's decision was not only out of love for the house, but also a longing for a better future life. The young man's sincerity and kindness made the old man feel a long-lost warmth and companionship. In life, many people often pursue money and material possessions, but ignore the value of emotions. True happiness comes from mutual care and companionship, not mere material ownership. In the mountain village, there lived a mother and daughter who depended on each other for everything. The mother was an extremely cautious person. To guard against thieves and bad people, she would always lock several bolts on their door. Life drifted by in this simple way, but as the daughter grew, she began to feel a deep yearning for the outside world. One day, while her mother wasn't paying attention, the daughter quietly left home, leaving her mother alone to guard the now lonely village. Many years passed. The world outside was cruel and unforgiving, and hardships and challenges followed her everywhere. After enduring countless trials, her heart was filled with bitterness, and her longing for her mother surged like a wave. So, on a moonlit night, full of shame, she returned to that once so familiar mountain village. Everything was still the same, familiar and comforting. The air was filled with the fragrance of her childhood, and the years seemed like a fleeting dream. Standing before the door, she closed her eyes, her heart heavy with regret, reproaching herself deeply for her impulsiveness and naivety. As she gently pushed open the old door, she was stunned. How could her ever-cautious mother have left the door unlocked? As she stood there in surprise, a soft, familiar voice came from inside the house. Her mother, now frail, walked slowly to the door. Their eyes met, and her mother's gray hair seemed to tell the story of years of longing and waiting. Tears welled up in the daughter's eyes, and the two embraced tightly. The daughter asked why the door hadn't been locked, and with a gentle smile, her mother replied, "Ever since you left, this door has never been locked. I never knew when you'd return, so I kept it open just for you." Once again, the daughter's tears flowed, unstoppable. On that bright and quiet night, her mother locked the door once more, and the two of them fell asleep in each other's arms. Parental love is the most selfless emotion in the world. They never ask for anything in return, yet pour their entire hearts into their children. This brief story holds a profound truth. Every child goes through a stage of longing to break free from their parents' protection and explore the world. Although parents may feel worry and fear, they won't stop a child's yearning for freedom. What they can do is keep a warm home, always open, so that when the child is worn and weary, the doors of home are always open, forever a safe harbor. In the United States, California, Los Angeles, there is a student named Jack, who, with excellent grades, has arrived at his university graduation season. Jack had dreamed of becoming an outstanding professional doctor since he was a child, living a life of dignity and accomplishment. In order to achieve this great goal, he decided to submit an application for further study to the Yale University School of Medicine. Full of expectation, he believed that his excellent academic performance and family background would be enough to help him enter this top university. However, fate gave him an unexpected result. He was rejected. When Jack opened the letter, his heart was filled with unease. When he saw the content of the letter, he was surprised and puzzled. "Dear Jack, thank you for your interest in our school. Although your academic performance is very outstanding and your family background meets our requirements, we discovered during the review process that you lack important social service experience, particularly any record of blood donation. As a future professional doctor, we believe that grades are not the only criterion for evaluation. The lack of experience in helping others makes it difficult for us to believe that you truly possess the compassion and care required to become a doctor. Faced with this rejection letter, Jack was not discouraged. Instead, he felt that it was necessary to make a final effort for his dream. He decided to fly to meet the president of Yale University and personally explain his enthusiasm and determination. The president very politely received Jack, carefully listened to his statements, and carefully reviewed his application materials. After hearing Jack's reasons, the president smiled and said, "Jack, your academic performance is indeed excellent, but becoming a doctor requires more than just knowledge and skills. As a doctor, the most important thing is your care for patients, and whether you have a genuine heart of compassion and empathy. Grades cannot represent everything, and we value more your care for others." The president continued, "As the dean of the medical school, my responsibility is not only to teach students how to treat and save lives, but also to cultivate kindness and goodness within them. A person who has never made a sacrifice for others cannot truly understand the pain of patients. We welcome you to return here, but the premise is that you must prove that you possess the kind heart required of a doctor." When Jack left the school, he understood the president's words. As a doctor, not only professional knowledge and skills are needed, but also, in the face of others' pain, a warm and kind heart is required. A long time ago, in a village in the United States, an old lady spread a rumor that her neighbor was a thief. As a result, the young man was arrested. A few days later, the young man was proven innocent and released. On his way home, he felt humiliated and decided to take the old lady to court, accusing her of defamation. The old lady told the judge those were just comments and they didn't harm anyone. Before announcing the verdict, the judge said to the old lady, "Write down everything you said about him on a piece of paper, cut it into pieces, and throw them away on your way home. Come back tomorrow for the verdict." The next day, the judge told the old lady, "Before accepting the judgment, you must go out and collect all the pieces of paper you threw away yesterday." The old lady replied, "I can't do that. The wind has surely scattered them, and I don't know where to find them." The judge replied, "Gossip is like those pieces of paper in the wind. Once spread, it is nearly impossible to retrieve. It can mercilessly destroy a person's reputation, making it difficult to restore." The old lady realized her mistake and asked for forgiveness. This story teaches us, think carefully before speaking, and don't believe or spread unsubstantiated information. Otherwise, we may unintentionally damage someone's reputation. Once words are spoken, they are like paper scattered in the wind, impossible to reclaim. Speaking mindfully is the least respect we owe to others.